order for Abu Dhabi to achieve its plan for 2030, one important element in its expansion is the growth of its flagship carrier, Etihad Airways, and its CEO, James Hogan, says the airline's own growth strategy will ensure that the city and the airline grow in tandem.
Well, the first key point is that we have a commercial mandate, and that is that we're to break even and move into profitability. So when we look at our plans out to 2030, we have a network plan where we'll be flying to that we regularly refresh, and we obviously take into account the stakeholders' objectives. We look at the cities where we believe we can bring the traffic to Abu Dhabi. That will give us the traffic flows to build our airline, and at the same time obviously support the development of Abu Dhabi. So we take into account those activities, but I'm also very focused on how we move this airline into profitability and how I fill the commercial mandate of the shareholders.
And what are the main things you have to consider yourself to keep the airline on the right path?
Well, this is a very dynamic industry. Every 2.5 years we seem to be hit by some form of crisis, whether it be the fuel crisis, whether it be tsunami, SARS, war, and now we're in a major economic crisis that is compounded by the swine flu that has also impacted some people's travel plans. So within that you need to obviously manage your cost extremely tight, and we have a very strong balanced scorecard process where all the key stakeholders on a monthly basis have to adjust based on the revenue demand curves and based on the yield. So we're continually assessing the various routes, the cabin penetration of first, business and economy, and within the marketplace we stimulate activity accordingly. At the moment, due to the recession, you see a number of carriers, the European carriers, Southeast Asian carriers are being very aggressive. We have to compete. It's probably a very good time for the consumer, but in these times of huge pressure on the revenue, we have to manage our cost much tighter. And the objective is the same, to move towards break even, but it is a tough environment. So from a business perspective, it's very much a focus, month by month, quarter by quarter at the moment.
You've talked before about working with a clean sheet with Etihad. What are the benefits of this, and what has it enabled you to do?
We're not a legacy carrier. One could say a legacy carrier is European carriers, Southeast Asian carriers, where when they established their airlines 20 or 30 years ago, the model was different. Most of those airlines were flag carriers that were government owned, and they created major engineering bases, catering bases, which brought with them unions and work practices that may have been relevant 20 or 30 years ago but aren't relevant today. So it's very tough to renegotiate those practices. Whereas here in Abu Dhabi, what we've been able to take advantage of is people like Abu Dhabi Aircraft Technologies, where they run the MRO, where they're their major customer, but the investment is obviously within their remit in creating the facility that we need, and how they achieve their economies of scale is bringing in more customers. Likewise for Abu Dhabi Airports Corporation. So with that clean sheet, it means I can focus on service, on people, on working smart. At the end of the day, airlines, it's about transporting passengers. So it's very important we get the right mix in the cabins, first, business and economy, at the right level of fare, what I define as the yield. And having a workforce that is non-unionised, it still means I need to compensate them properly, but I can be much more fast-moving in the way I multi-skill redeploy. You could say that we're like a speedboat, maybe versus one of the European carriers, like a major liner, which takes a long time to turn. We can move very fast, and that's that fastness we need, because we're dealing with customers from all around the world, and the behaviour and the requirements of someone out of Australia, somebody out of Singapore, New York, London, the Gulf, are different. So we have to be very focused on the customer, how we continue to give great service, how we continue to improve our specification, our product on board the aircraft, our in-flight entertainment, our lounges, our nannies, to continue to get the right level of penetration and yield that we need to move towards profitability.